Do you believe that she is the best person fit to be the nominee in November?
I do, and I think she can beat Donald Trump in November.
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
This whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe.
Do you plan to visit the border?
Not today.
Is that a socialist or progressive perspective?
No.
Okay, let's have French toast.
I just love good news.
And in the moment, as it relates not only to the past, but the future.
What is this woman smoking?
Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Boy, if you sleep these days or blink or, I don't know, try to take some time for yourself over the weekend, you're missing really big things going on in this country. Yes, it's Harris / question mark 2024. We're not sure yet, but obviously Joe Biden has dropped out of the race. I want to go through some of the details of what we know. And I want to ask the question, did the Democrats just stage a coup to replace Joe Biden? So here's what we know. Obviously, yesterday, Joe Biden withdrew from the presidential race, issuing this statement on Twitter. Of course, X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, whatever you want to call it. He said, "It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. And while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work, taking the idea of breaking up by text to a whole new level," I would say. Like, they just issued the statement and put it on Twitter and hit send. This was a breakup by text in a whole new level. Now, I want you to notice, he thanked Kamala Harris. He didn't say anything about endorsing Kamala Harris as the nominee in his statement, which to me speaks volumes. I mean, this was obviously a well-crafted statement. There were a lot of words there, some of which I don't believe that Joe Biden wrote himself. Well, I would say all of them I don't believe Joe Biden wrote himself. And so Kamala was not even mentioned as someone who he was endorsing. He just thanked her. In fact, it was glaringly obvious that he didn't endorse her in that letter. So it was strange to me when just a few hours after this is, again, tweeted out, there's no video of him signing it. He doesn't record a video mess. I mean, it is literally, we are living in a time where it is easier than ever to just take a quick video on your phone and post it, and literally the entire world can see it. And that didn't happen. Okay. But a few hours later, Joe Biden, or I will say at least Joe Biden's account, tweeted this: "My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do that." So why not include that in your statement? I mean, that, like, you're supposed to say it all in the statement. So why was it just glaringly obvious that Kamala was not endorsed in the statement? And then a few hours later on social media, again, we cannot see that Joe Biden is the one making these decisions. We're just reading them on social media. Why would you not include that in your statement? Now, keep in mind, this is coming from the same guy who less than 1 week ago said this about the future, his future rather, in the race. Watch.
Who do you listen to on deeply personal issues like the decisions whether to stay in the race or not?
Me. I'm on the horse. Where have you been? I've done 22 major events, met thousands of people, overwhelming crowds, a lot happening. I'm on the horse. What I'm doing is going out and demonstrating to the American people that I'm in command of all my faculties, that I don't need notes, I don't need teleprompt. I can go out and answer any questions at all.
Literally 0 people believe that. So my question is, did Joe Biden himself really drop out of this race, or is this just some sort of a ploy from the deep state? A coup, if you will, to further subvert our democracy. You know, the democracy that they claim to love so much. Everything that they talk about is a threat to democracy. Democracy is the most important thing ever for this country. I don't know. It sounds like you're trying to subvert it to me. Let's look at the facts here, okay? Fact number 1, Joe Biden's signatures, all right? Did Joe Biden willingly pen and sign this campaign withdrawal letter? Now, lucky for us, we have decades of examples to look at because the guy's like 200 years old. He's been in public office for about 150 of those years. So, lot of decades of official signatures to compare. Let's compare them. I dug up an official signature and posted it on Twitter in a side-by-side of the signature in the dropout letter. It doesn't look similar to me. I mean, I'll let you decide, okay? I want to throw into the mix because you might say, oh, well, you just used one version. Maybe there are other versions where he has signed that are a little more similar to his campaign dropout letter. No, it wasn't just me. A couple hours later, other X accounts were noticing the same thing. Now, this one, it actually compares the signature on his letter to his last 5 executive orders. I got to ask, guys, do these look alike? And by the way, in any of them, is there a line underneath his name? No. That doesn't look similar at all. Now, I get it. I keep hearing from people who are like, well, you know, those people who have dementia usually don't keep the same signature. They often don't remember how they sign their name. Okay, first of all, I hear you. And by the way, thank you for proving my point that he does not belong in office right now. But it seems to me all of those most recent signatures that you just saw were extremely similar in nature. And they were all, I mean, you dated back, but like the most recent one was, there you go, what, earlier this month? I mean, these are very recent signatures. But now all of a sudden, it's a completely different signature. Very curious. They all match up except the dropout. Very, very curious indeed. Okay, so let's go to another fact that we know. I'm going to go ahead and say Kamala Harris dutifully played her role in this entire bait and switch because I want to play for you. Kamala Harris, just back on Friday, she had, obviously, they were in a free fall, the campaign. Donations were plummeting. This was post-debate and post-Trump assassination attempt. The momentum had clearly shifted. We heard that Harris spoke with 300 high-level Democrat donors on a phone call just 2 days before Joe Biden bowed out of the campaign. Now, at that time, she was supposedly still all in on the Biden campaign, reportedly telling all of these high-level donors, we know which candidate in this election puts the American people first, our president, Joe Biden. With every decision he makes in the Oval Office, he thinks about how it will impact working Americans, and I witness it every day. Yeah, we all witness it every day. He impacts us all. You're right. He impacts us all. None of it's good. He does impact us all, us working Americans. We're aware, Kamala. Now, she also apparently admonished high-level donors and said that they needed to lock in and get behind Biden rather than pursuing efforts to push him out. Well, that statement aged like milk nearing its expiration date. Because Kamala, just 3 days later, fast forward to right now, had quite the attitude change because immediately following Joe Biden's endorsement of her yesterday. I'll say Joe Biden's social media account's endorsement of her yesterday. Kamala issued this statement, all ready to go. I am honored to have the president's endorsement, and my intention is to earn and win this nomination. Now, just like that, ready to go. Kamala's rearing to go. Obviously, you know, Biden's endorsement gives Kamala a huge advantage ahead of the planned vote from convention delegates next month. Now, financially, she stands to inherit the entire Biden campaign estate because her name was on the original Biden-Harris campaign. She's the only one who can do that. Otherwise, the money is just an island in and of itself. Nobody can touch it. She can. Now, she's also raised nearly $50 million in the 24 hours since Biden's announcement that he was dropping out. Interesting. Fact number 3, Joe Biden's lack of schedule should have everyone in America asking major questions, okay? We have not seen or heard from Joe Biden himself since Wednesday of last week when officials claimed he had COVID. I'm still not buying that, by the way. Convince me that Joe Biden has COVID, okay? Because they were like, oh, Joe Biden has COVID. He's got to rush off to Delaware where he needs to recover, where, by the way, we already pointed out last week, he was already scheduled to be. They already had a pre-planned visit to Delaware, and then they claimed that it was because of the COVID diagnosis. Well, why were you already planning to be there? When he left, he was totally maskless, by the way, driving up to the airport, walking up. He was maskless 20 minutes before they announced that he had COVID in a restaurant, getting awfully close to people. And then they were like, Joe Biden has COVID, got to go to Delaware and recuperate. And since then, all we've seen is he broke up with his campaign by text and promised some sort of upcoming speech. He said in his statement, I will speak to the nation later in this week about more detail about my decision. But yesterday, the White House released Joe Biden's public schedule. Monday, July 22nd, 2024, the president has no public event scheduled. Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024 through Sunday, July 28th, additional details to the president's schedule forthcoming. Isn't that weird? Isn't that strange that Joe Biden would make the decision to drop out of the presidential race, drop out of the race on a Sunday by a statement posted on Twitter with a signature that doesn't match up, claiming that he was going to address the nation later this week, but there's no plan to do so yet, and no video of Joe Biden signing this letter, no photos, nothing. No one has seen him, and nothing scheduled. I'm just saying welfare checks need to be done. Look, we've joked about this being a weekend at Bernie's presidency. At this point, we need proof of life on Joe Biden. Now, if that wasn't enough, let me give you another fact here. Democrats, we obviously know, they have known for a very long time that Joe Biden was dying. His health was failing. He's falling apart right before our very eyes. America has seen it happen. But in an interview with CBS News, Joe Biden's brother, Frank, actually, maybe he didn't mean to, but he admitted that his health is failing. And in fact, he even accidentally, I would say, made this morbid prediction. Watch.
Had a brief conversation with Frank Biden, one of President Biden's 2 younger brothers, and here's what he told us. He said, I'm incredibly proud of my brother. Selfishly, I will have him back to enjoy whatever time we have left. He is a genuine hero. Country over self. It sounds corny in our cynical political environment, but he nor I are cynical. The goal remains the same: defeat Trump and continue the work that Joe has done. My hope is that our party rallies around this heroic act.
Whatever time we have left. I mean, I get it, the guy's 1 billion years old, but that seems like a very strange, specific thing to just drop in there, whatever time we have left. Well, all I'm saying is we know for a fact the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, the Biden family have been lying to the American people about his health and about his mental fitness for years. I would say just the entirety of his presidency, but it's been before that. Because remember, we were talking about this before he got in the White House. And it's just gotten worse since then. We've all seen it. In fact, they gaslit us just weeks ago. Remember? We were being accused of, they're just those mean, nasty Republicans are putting out deep fakes and cheap fakes. They're selectively editing these clips to make it sound like Joe Biden is in mental decline, and he's not. He's not. You remember all the story? I work with him every day. He's the most vigorous person I know. He's the most capable person I know. What are these mean conspiracy theorist Republicans putting out? Of course Joe Biden's fine. They knew. We all knew they were lying. We all know they've been lying this entire time. But in the past 72 hours, the DNC and Kamala Harris have exposed that they are complicit in all of this. There was Kamala Just days after telling high-level donors, oh, Joe's got this. Come on. No, he's totally fine. Shifting real quick to put me in, coach. I'm ready. I already got my helmet on. I'm already suited up. I'm ready to go. I already filed. I'm ready. Let's do this. Oh, Kamala. Willie would be so proud. Now, if Democrats can overthrow their elected nominee, remember, this was the guy. This is how democracy works. I know you guys use that term all the time and you don't really understand what it means. This is kind of the way that works, or at least in your warped brain, the idea of a democracy and America having one. That's this right here. Okay. So if they overthrow their elected nominee, do you trust them to have a truly open convention? Who's going to choose the nominee? The people or the power brokers? Remember, they love democracy. Big fans of democracy. Power to the people. They want the people to choose, except, not. Because when it comes down to it, it seems to me that they're always of the opinion, no, we the elites, we know better. Okay, children, we will choose and you will go along with it because we know better. Now, finally, Speaker Mike Johnson tweeted out something that I have been saying for weeks now about the possibility of Joe Biden dropping out of the race. Thanks for catching up, Mike. If he can't run, he obviously cannot serve. He said if Joe Biden is not fit to run for president, he is not fit to serve as president, he must resign the office immediately. November 5th cannot arrive soon enough. Yeah, exactly my point that I've been making. If they wanted to pivot to this, which, by the way, this is the crazy part. They pivoted to this. And we talked about last week, them pivoting to Joe Biden has to drop out. And I kept raising the question, how does he drop out while also maintaining that he is able to serve for this long? Because everyone said it would be attached to COVID. Well, it's not even attached to COVID. They didn't even wait for that to play out. That's how that's how much an emergency this was to get Joe Biden out. That's how bad it was going for the Democrats. They couldn't even wait and blame it on COVID. They had to do it right now, which again leads me to believe that the COVID thing was completely made up. They just made it up to buy themselves time. Because everything's happening exactly how we predicted. Now, I guess we shouldn't be surprised if they've proven already that they would fortify an election. They're going to fortify election results at whatever the cost. Democracy be damned. Why wouldn't they do it again? By the way, last time they were pretty damn successful. So I think we need to be really paying attention to every single move that they're making. But in the meantime, I would like some proof of life of Joe Biden. We certainly have not gotten it thus far. All right, I want to bring in the panel to digest and give some analysis on, truly unprecedented times we are living in right now, ladies and gentlemen. First, I want to thank our sponsor, Cardio Miracle. So Cardio Miracle, I love it. You guys know me. I'm a health nut, and I try not to be judgmental about health and nutrition. But what I do like to do is when I find something that I really, really love, I do like to share it with everyone. So that is Cardio Miracle. I take it every day. It's sourced with 50 of the finest food, plant, herbal ingredients and the best natural flavors in the world. It tastes great. I wouldn't drink it I can't drink something that doesn't taste great. I love it. And the biggest part of it is it just makes you feel better, okay? So maybe you have low energy, maybe you have vitamin depletion, maybe you're taking prescription medicine that you don't want to be taking, maybe you want a better night's sleep. Cardio Miracle, it's time to take a look. If you're suffering from any of those problems, it's 2 scoops twice a day, and it can stimulate your body's natural healing pathways to produce the miracle molecule nitric oxide, and that is why everything, I'm telling you, everything, heart disease, diabetes, kidney disease, Alzheimer's, dementia. Can we get some to Joe? Stephen, can we please mail some of this to the White House? Well, not the White House. Can we mail this to Delaware? Can we please mail this? All right, it's great for moms, dads. Stephen doesn't want to answer me. Grandparents, even teenagers that need support during hormonal changes. They've got a 60-day money-back guarantee. CardioMiracle.com/Sara is where you can find it. Use code Sara to save 10% off of your first order. Subscribe and save. You'll get 15% off with free shipping. That is CardioMiracle.com/Sara, promo code Sara. Now, the question is, what are the next steps for the Democrat Party? Which, again, is just the irony there and them pretending that they are the Democratic Party is just so cute. So I want to play a Democrat strategist and former Biden VP staffer Van Jones as he tries to justify, I think to himself rather than anyone else, the canning of Biden as a family matter.
This is the difference between a politician and a leader. He made a selfless decision, and people are heartbroken. Even people who are pushing for this to happen. It's kind of like when your grandpa, you got to take the keys, and everybody, you got to take his keys, you got to take his keys, you got to, and he's fighting, and everybody's so frustrated, and then you finally get the keys back, and then you just cry. Because this is somebody that you love. This is somebody that you care about. This is somebody who was there for you. This is somebody you wouldn't be here without him. And you have to take something from him. That's a family. That's what it is. You know, he's hurt now. He feels let down. He feels that his friends turned on him. In the fullness of time, he'll recognize that it was done out of love.
Have some thoughts on that. I'd imagine that my panel does as well. I want to welcome to the program our very own Steve Baker. He is, of course, Blaze Media's investigative journalist, along with Pat Gray, host of Pat Gray Unleashed, which you can find right here on Blaze TV, also wherever you get your podcasts. He broadcasts really early.
Yes.
So if you're not up that early,
Really?
you do need to make sure to subscribe to it wherever you get your podcasts as well. So, I mean, I want to be very careful with my words here. I do feel sort of sorry for an elderly man with dementia whose family is taking advantage of him, but I don't for one second buy into some idea like Van Jones is like, oh, it's just so delicate, and they're just trying to help him. Like, they've been parading him around on a global platform for a very long time, embarrassing him, embarrassing his legacy, embarrassing everything about America and what it stands for. And now all of a sudden, they're supposed to be the victims in all of this after their bank accounts prove they very much were not victims at all. In fact, they were profiting off of all of this.
It's elder abuse. We've talked about that many times. He's been subjected to elder abuse. And then the other narrative right now seems to be, oh, he did the patriotic thing. The patriotic thing, he was forced out. He was forced. He's pissed out of his mind. Read what the insiders are saying about him. He is really angry right now because he feels like everybody turned on him.
He should be angry, honestly.
And he should be angry. I mean, I don't feel any sympathy for him whatsoever because he's done his damnedest to destroy this nation in his cognitive moments. And I really resent that a great deal. And I resent everybody around him for doing it. So I don't have any sympathy for the family, for him, for his administration. They all suck. And they can all go as far as I'm concerned. Please get out. Don't let the door hit you in the rectal cavity on the way out. But patriotism had nothing to do with this. Absolutely. If he was patriotic, he wouldn't have run in the first place because he knew he was going downhill in 2020.
Right.
So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear that nonsense.
I agree.
I was literally going to say everything that Pat just said right there, except for the rectal cavity part. But he's exactly right. I mean, I have no sympathy. Even long before his brain was addled by whatever disease form of dementia this is, I had no sympathy for him whatsoever, just because of what he's done in his entire career leading up to this moment. So I certainly have no sympathy for him in that regard right now, today. But what you said earlier about the so-called Democratic Party, well, this is the actual function of the Democracy Party, because it's the exact function of the party our founders warned us against.
That's a great point.
That's what we're dealing with right now.
That's a great point. So let's talk about what happens now, right, with the Democratic Party, which I always like to just say Democrat Party because I don't try to pretend like they care at all about democracy. So obviously we are told that Joe supports Kamala, but the way I just talked about this earlier, the way in which that was presented was like, why didn't he write it in the letter? Now, all of a sudden, he's tweeting it out from his account, but he didn't write it in the letter. Why is that? And so even if, let's say that is true, that he did endorse Kamala, He won every state in the primaries. He had 3,896 of the 4,700 delegates. So what happens to those delegates? His endorsement obviously does not mean that those would automatically transfer to Kamala. It's just an encouragement. They've raised $91 million under the Biden-Harris ticket. Add money raised by all the Democrat sources, and the DNC has like $240 million in their war chest. And so Kamala, we assume, is going to be able to, I was reading that it's technically a gray area, but that there shouldn't be an issue with Kamala taking control of the funds that have been raised under the Biden-Harris ticket because she is the Harris in Biden-Harris. But if they decide to run a new person, what are the restrictions on the money? Where does the money go? And by the way, Kamala was very quickly endorsed by Bill and Hillary Clinton, who released a statement saying, "We are honored to join the president in endorsing Vice President Harris and will do whatever we can to support her. We've lived through many ups and downs, but nothing has made us more worried for our country than the threat posed by a second Trump term. Now is the time to support Kamala Harris and fight with everything we've got to elect her." I also just read that Nancy Pelosi is backing Kamala as well. Curiously, mysteriously missing from that endorsement list so far is Barack Obama.
But Gavin is there, Gavin Newsom, and I need Gavin to be the nominee because I have a big bet myself on that particular question. No, but he's endorsed her as well. But see, I think. Did he? Yes, absolutely.
Gavin Newsom endorsed.
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
But see, I think that Newsom and Hillary's endorsements are diversionary, and I think that their endorsements are only going to be real up until the floor fight at the DNC.
I agree.
Then all bets are off.
I agree. I mean, all of this is just theatrical. It's purely for the show. I don't believe any of them. I don't believe that any of them think that she's capable. I think that they just know that they have to be able to use that money. And by the way, they can't pass up a diversity hire. This was like the most important thing ever, that we had just gotten the first Black woman, Indonesian, all of the check boxes in as vice president. What are you going to do? Kick her to the curb?
Well, you can't.
No.
You can't. They're too into identity politics to do that.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see if at the open convention, Gavin Newsom jumps in, Gretchen Whitmer jumps in, Andy Beshear maybe, although he might be the VP nominee with Kamala. I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see how many people want this.
Pete Buttigieg.
Pete Buttigieg.
Well, they're also mentioning Governor Roy Cooper from North Carolina, which is going to be really interesting for me because Governor Roy Cooper's daughter and my daughter were roommates in college.
Oh.
So if he's suddenly the VP nominee, I'll have a lot to say.
Oh. Steve Baker with all of the receipts and all of the tea all the time. So again, I'm just going to sit back with my popcorn and watch the train wreck happening and just be glad that at this time it's not us. It's been us before. It's not us this time, and that's great. But I want to play for you guys Alex Jones, obviously over InfoWars, Alex Jones. Why am I bringing this up? He's given a prediction that Kamala is not going to be the first female president. And I will say before we play this, he does have sort of a track record of he's gotten some things horribly wrong, but he's also gotten some things horribly right. And on July 9th, he predicted that Joe Biden would drop out of the race on the 20th or the 21st, which of course it ended up being on the 21st. So let's listen to what Alex Jones has to say.
Now they're talking about Kamala, saying they all endorse her, but terrible meetings with the donors, and she's doing a terrible job. So they're acting like their hands are clean while they have their hatchet men and women and surrogates take her out. So they will move to put Hillary Clinton in. We started seeing a major PR push 3 days ago, once they knew Biden was going to step down, that she should be the person, that she has the answers, that she won the popular vote, that she's the one.
Maybe what this country needs is another Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton matchup.
That'd be perfect. She lost to him once. She'd lose to him twice. That would be great. And I do think she is kind of bubbling out there in the background because the Democrat bench is so bad.
So bad.
They have nobody. I mean, Kamala Harris is the first person that they push forward. Nobody likes her. She's got like a 0 approval rating. I think it's literally lower than Biden's, which was 36 at last check. So she's around 34, I think. And, Gavin Newsom isn't well liked. Gretchen
Also could be the
Whitmer.
spawn of Satan.
Yeah, he might
the Antichrist.
Very well may be
Yeah.
the Antichrist.
Mhm.
So as you look down the bench, you think, Hillary, should we give you another chance? How about one more time? One more time. Maybe down a little bit further down the bench, Al Gore, maybe. Come on in, Al. Richard Gephardt. Who's up next?
Just yesterday, I saw a photo of Hillary, and it was on a mainstream media site, so it wasn't like touched up to make her look bad. And I'm sorry, but she looked exactly like the Emperor from Star Wars in that photo. So this was not even a retouched photo.
That's so funny. Well, I'll end this on a poll from Reuters that says that Michelle Obama is the only possible Democrat nominee who could beat Donald Trump. 50% of 1,070 Americans who were surveyed, including 892 registered voters, said they would vote for Michelle Obama today, compared to the 39% who would vote for Donald Trump. And then you have to wonder why. Maybe that's why Obama has not come out and given Kamala the endorsement. I don't know. Again, I'm just going to sit back and eat popcorn. Well, I don't eat popcorn because it has carbs, but I'll eat pork rinds because those are crunchy and salty, and also they don't have carbs. You're welcome. Speaking of keeping track of your health and your weight, I want to thank our sponsor, Lumen. So Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's really awesome. I love this thing. It's a little device. You can easily take it with you wherever you go, but it measures your metabolism through your breath. I didn't even know that was possible, but it is. And so in the app, it'll tell you what percentage of fat or carbs you're burning, and it gives you tailored guidance based off of that to improve your nutrition, workouts, sleep, and even stress management. It's almost like a breathalyzer. You just blow into it, and don't Photoshop that with anything. And then you're going to know what's going on with your metabolism and whether you're burning mostly fats, mostly carbs, somewhere in between, and they will personalize it for you. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, I'm telling you guys, that's awesome. You'll love it. You can go to lumen.me/Sara to get 15% off of your Lumen. That is lumen.me/Sara for 15% off your purchase. So I would say the more that we find out about Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheatle's plan, or I should say lack thereof, for the July 13th Trump rally in which Donald Trump was shot in the head, the more questions I have surrounding the entirety. I mean, from top to bottom, it seems to be every single thing was a complete and total failure. And so it just leaves people asking, especially after the hearing that took place today. And there were so many questions that remain unanswered. And it just leaves people asking, was this just a whole series of failures due to what? Incompetency, DEI? I don't know, but just a whole bunch of errors, or a setup for an assassination? I'm just going to ask the obvious question here, guys, because it just doesn't seem to make sense. Even the level of just sheer idiocy that had to take place in order for all of this to happen, I just have a hard time swallowing. On top of that, the lack of transparency. Now that we're, 9 days? Is it 9 days out from this happening? There are very basic questions that we still don't have answers for that we really should. So let's go through option one. Okay, this was just a series of unfortunate events, a whole big oopsies that, by the way, I don't like. I'm saying this sarcastically because I don't want to lose sight of the fact that while Donald Trump did not die, someone did. Mm-hmm. He lost his life, and he was a father and a husband. So I never want that to be lost in this conversation that, yeah, he missed Donald Trump, but there's a family that is grieving the loss of the patriarch of their family. So I just want to remind everyone of that. But I want to play Senator Ron Johnson, who, by the way, gave the border security chart to Donald Trump that he glanced at, just going through this laundry list of failures on part of the Secret Service.
My staff immediately started reaching out to local law enforcement. We've gathered a fair amount of information. Again, we're just scratching the surface. But a couple of things that we found out. For example, the Secret Service did not even attend the 9 o'clock security meeting with local law enforcement. Pretty well put in charge the Butler County law enforcement to coordinate things. Law enforcement wasn't even on the same channel.
So that was
SWAT and
just
sniper teams.
Just to be clear, Senator, that was a 9 a.m. meeting on July 13th, the day of the shooting.
Correct.
It's just incomprehensible how bad this gets. So he also gave the following details, which are damning to both, I would say, Cheatle and the deep state that I would say runs her. So the sniper and SWAT teams were not on the same channels. Like he said, 10:30 a.m., local PD team was told to secure the perimeter. They set up on the second floor. They were not given detailed instructions. 5:14, the local sniper team took photos of Crooks, who we now know was the shooter, on the AGR building. Trump was still allowed to take the stage. No one can explain that to me in a way that makes sense, why Donald Trump was still allowed to take the stage if they thought that someone was a threat enough or a suspicious enough. I know they kept using this term that they're very different. Someone being suspicious or a suspect and someone being a threat. But I don't know why in the world you would run the risk that you would put him on the stage when you wouldn't have to. You could delay 10 minutes, 15 minutes. What the hell is it going to, what difference is it going to make? Oh, I don't know, maybe life or death. So I want to play option 2, which is this was an assassination setup that was failed. So let's play, again, Ron Johnson talking about, a potential second shooter. Watch.
I've seen some pretty interesting video on the internet by experts that certainly calls into question what the FBI is telling us about a single shooter.
Okay. Now let's play what he had to say about a mystery man that showed up and insisted that pictures be texted to his phone that no one has identified.
So that sniper team that was in the AGR building, they're the first ones that went up on the roof. They were the first to encounter the dead assassin at that point in time. Later on, other people joined them, and somebody told them to send the pictures they had taken to an ATF agent, which I think is very strange. And we called up that ATF agent. That individual said that he was with ATF, and now he's gone dark. We've also reached out to the Secret Service agents in charge on the ground. All we're getting there is the runaround. So we are getting information from local law enforcement.
Add on top of that, the hearing today where members of Congress were stonewalled. And also today, the Oversight Project revealed that they were using mobile ad data to track movement of Thomas Crooks and his associates. And their analysis revealed, would you look there, an FBI link. So apparently someone who regularly visited Crooks' home and Crooks' work also visited a building in Washington, D.C. located in the Gallery Place, which is the same vicinity of an FBI office. This was on June 26, 2023. I'm sure it's all just a great coincidence, though, Steve.
Sarah, if ever we needed a show length of about 2 hours, it would be today to go through just what you've shown right there. First of all, everything that Ron Johnson showed right there corroborates everything that we've been able to find. Myself and Joe Hanneman, now also new with the Blaze, have been working on this story. I was in D.C. When Trump was shot, and I regret that I didn't turn my car around and head to Pennsylvania right there. I was headed back home to North Carolina at the time. And the reason why I regret that is because there was a gag order placed the next morning at early morning on Sunday morning on all of the agents on the ground. So the Secret Service agents, local PD, the Sheriff's Department, the state police received a gag order all the way up from Mayorkas's office and basically told them, if you want to keep your jobs, you're going to shut up. You can't talk to your wives. You can't talk to anybody. And so our intel was cut off. But we had a treasure trove of intel from 6:00 something or 6:11, whatever, until that morning when the gag order and everything that Ron Johnson said right there is correct. I'm not on board with the multiple shooters yet. And there's reasons for that we can get into at another time. I also don't want to steal Pat Gray's thunder because Pat Gray Unleashed, we're doing a whole show on Friday about the conspiracy theories. I want to steal Pat Gray's thunder. Yeah, you do. But the point being is that I'm going to answer your question is how it's incomprehensible that those Secret Service agents did not take Trump off the stage, and I'm going to tell you why they didn't right now. It's because they didn't know, because all of their communications were siloed between the individual agencies. And so the shooters from the state police that had crooks zeroed in their rifle scopes were trying to deconflict. And what that means is they had been told in that morning meeting that they talked about that the Secret Service snipers didn't show up for, at that 9 a.m. meeting, they were told there would be sniper coverage on that roof where Crooks was.
So they thought it might be one of their agents.
So suddenly they see a guy with a gun in the prone position.
Yep.
They don't know whether to take him out or not. They didn't want a blue-on-blue incident, and so they started the process of deconfliction. Took them a couple of minutes because once they started asking, is this good guy, bad guy, friendly, not one of us? Who is this guy?
Right.
But nobody's hearing the messages. So President Trump's close detail, the three big guys on stage, his normal, security detail, not the bad guys, not the DEI guys, but the good guys. They're sitting on stage. They've got their earpieces in. They know nothing that's happening. Had they been hearing that conversation, they would have just quietly exited him off the stage right then until this was over with. But by the time, and of course, when I say by the time, it just never happened. There was no deconfliction or lack of, deconfliction at that time. So there was no stand down order. That's one of the conspiracy theories. Nobody told those snipers to stand down. They were just afraid that they were going to shoot one of their own.
Interesting.
Mall cops could have done a better job than the U.S. Secret Service. It's frightening. It's really sad. So either they're way more incompetent than we ever dreamed, or there's something radically wrong here that is conspiratorial. And I don't know which it is. I think hopefully it'll eventually come out, but the Secret Service has had problems for over a decade. I mean, do you remember the person that got into the White House under Obama's reign of terror? I mean, he just crawled over the gate, walked all the way across the White House lawn, got into the West Wing, and made it down the hall and into one of the rooms. And they finally took him down. I mean, then there was the incident. Was it in Colombia with the drunk Secret Service agent and lady of the evening, I believe, and there were some issues there. But there's been some things going on that apparently haven't been fixed, and in fact, looks like the agency's just gone downhill from there. Yeah. So it's really a shame. Or there's something.
But see, there's a third option as well, because obviously we have to go to incompetency first.
Right.
This was gross incompetency. And then you go to the conspiratorial things, and was this a setup? But it can also be deliberate incompetency to allow things to take place.
Could be that.
Happen otherwise.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fits into conspiratorial a little bit.
Right.
You would like to think the Secret Service wouldn't do that.
Well, I mean, that's kind of their whole job is to keep the person that they're protecting from harm, safe from harm. So
see, they couldn't even answer today how many personnel they had on the grounds. I actually have the list. But that's
okay. So let's take a quick break, and then let's get back into that when we return. All right, going back to this Secret Service hearing, let's play Jim Jordan putting Kimberly Cheatle on notice. Watch.
Were you guessing or lying? The day after President Trump is shot, Secret Service spokesman Anthony Guglielmi said, quote, "The assertion that a member of the former president's security team requested additional security resources that the U.S. Secret Service or the Department of Homeland Security rebuffed is absolutely false." The next day, Secretary Mayorkas said, "That is an unequivocally false assertion. We had not received any request for additional security measures that were rebuffed." But 5 days later, the Washington Post said this: "Top officials repeatedly rejected requests from Donald Trump's security detail for more personnel." The next day, the New York Times said this: "Mr. Guglielmi acknowledged that the Secret Service had turned down some requests for additional federal security assets for Mr. Trump's detail." So which is it? Because both statements can't be true. Were you guessing or lying when you said you didn't turn down requests from President Trump's detail?
Neither.
Neither.
Had to be one of the two.
Neither. No, it's neither.
No,
It's
okay.
neither, Pat. It's a
All
yes
right.
or no question. God, there's a gnat in here. It's a yes or no question. I can't not react when there's a bug that flies in my face, okay?
It's not a scorpion.
Oh, God, don't even get me started, Steve. But I mean, these simple questions, to your point before the break, Steve, simple questions that you've had 9 days to get right, and you still can't give us an answer. At this point, it would just be more respectful to the American people for her to just say, I'm not going to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't say you don't know, right? Don't say you're still working on getting the information. We still have an active investigation because trust us to investigate ourselves. Don't worry. You might as well be respectful enough to say, I'm just not going to tell you that.
I was watching the hearing until another piece of late breaking news happened this afternoon. And up until that point, every single question that she was asked, there was not a single reason, not for security, not because it was classified, not because it was top secret, or it was going to reveal some, super duper top secret policing investigative technique or something. Every single question she was asked, she could have answered if she knew the answer to it, and she knew the answer to at least most of them.
Right.
Already. Several of them, which she clearly even said, yes, I do know the answer to that, and I'm not going to tell you.
Right. Right. Exactly. I mean, like that would be more respectful. I just, this is very cynical, but I am just going to say, I don't feel like we get answers unless Donald Trump is back in the White House in January. And even then, I'm not confident that they wouldn't have destroyed evidence. I mean, we know January 6th, there were missing text messages that were deleted. Oopsies. It was just an oopsies. Don't worry. But I do think, the only hope that we have at getting real answers is for Donald Trump to be in charge of things.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other way.
Any self-respecting commander-in-chief would have fired her by now. She'd be gone.
Yeah.
He wouldn't wait for her resignation. He would have fired her by now. It's despicable and inconceivable that it hasn't happened. Have you ever seen a worse job done by a head of an agency like this? That's supposed to be one of the best in the world, by the way. Wow. Nothing could be further from the truth right now.
It goes back to the same thing. We're talking about the differences between the left and the right. Even on January 6th, the chief of police, Stephen Son, he had to fall on his sword the next day. The sergeant at arms of the Senate and the House both had to fall on their swords the next day. But the lady who failed at intelligence, the head of Capitol Police Intelligence, she didn't fall on her sword. She was elevated to acting chief, and now she has the cush job in Berkeley as chief of police there.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a great point. By the way, reminder, DEI kills. Okay, all right, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, I know there's been some discrepancy, but maybe Donald Trump's fist pump has made its way to MLB. Let's see.
2-base hit for Taylor Walls, and now he's in scoring position.
But I will say it is a little weird to try to make it similar. Like, the guy got his head shot, and you're like, it's totally the same thing as a baseball game. So I still don't like MLB. They haven't won me over with that.
Really?
Yeah, no.
I like it.
Really?
Yeah.
What about the ones that have
tribute from the St. Louis Cardinals? That's fun.
That's fine with you?
That's fun. Yeah, I like it.
I mean, I don't hate it. I'm just saying I don't love it.
Right.
Okay.
All right.